Hello and welcome to Recruiting in Hospitality from Caterer.com. As ever, I'm Lancelot Narayan, and as you know, in each programme we invite top guests from the world of hospitality to discuss matters affecting employers. So recruitment, development, retention, all that good stuff that affects you and your teams, and other matters too. Um, Today, we've got an episode I've been looking forward to for quite a while. As you may or may not know, Caterer.com has been a huge supporter of the organisation HR in Hospitality for many years, particularly their awards of excellence. We have been the sponsor of the Rising Star Award since Moses was a lad. I actually tried to figure out how long it was. No one can remember that far back. So we really do support this award. It's so important because it celebrates someone who's just at the beginning of a brilliant career. They're just starting, not just starting, but on their way, and they're going to be a superstar of the future. The 2022 awards have just happened, and I'm delighted to have to say that I had the winner of said award with me today. Please say hello to Abby Mellors. Abby, hello.
Hello, hi. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's great for you to be here. I'm so happy. It's brilliant. Um, well, look, let's find out about what makes Abby Mellors tick. Um, what are your first hospitality memories, Abby? Sort of what do you remember? I know what I remember. What mine are. It was at a restaurant called the Golden Egg when I was 4 years old, but they don't exist anymore. But what about you? Was it something you ever thought you'd be a part of?
So my dad was a chef when I grew up. So I was always, I would always be in the restaurant or I would kind of go see him whilst he was at work.
Where did he work, Abby?
So he worked in a gastropub in Nottingham.
Right.
And so which is where I'm from, and I would kind of go and see him at work, and he'd kind of grown up and he'd been to catering college, and for me it was really exciting. I'm a massive foodie. I absolutely adore food and I love going eating out. In the kitchen, maybe I'm not not the best, I'm not my dad, but I just remember going in and just seeing the passion and seeing the speed and looking at front of house and just the sheer joy that guests would get from having that interaction with the waiters and the food and everything was just really exciting for me. And then I remember when I was 16 years old, I got my first job in a restaurant.
Where was this?
Sorry?
Where was this?
It was in a restaurant. It was actually a Green King restaurant, funnily enough, in Nottingham. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, this is really, really daunting. And I was very, very nervous. And I always loved speaking to people, but I was a little bit shy when I was younger. And I remember going in and it was great. And I loved, seeing my friends and my colleagues. But it was very much at the time just something where you would go in, you would do the job, and then you would leave. There never seemed to be any kind of additional sort of enrichment in terms of team nights or, awards and summer parties. That just wasn't really a thing that I was aware of at that time. And I think also as well, when I was growing up, even though my dad worked in catering and worked in kitchens, hospitality was never something that was sort of raved about as an amazing career and a viable one. It was always just seen as potentially as someone would go into retail, you would either go retail or hospitality. That would sort of be your first job. But I think that's changing now, and that's why it's so amazing to be back in hospitality, to be able to shout about careers and promote excellent development.
Terrific. That's a great start. But so let's just switch over. When did the notion of going into HR occur to you? How did that all start?
So funnily enough, it was only when I joined Mowgli that the notion of HR really became
Really?
a thing for me. And that was so previously I'd worked in recruitment.
Okay.
So my first role coming out of university was as a graduate headhunter for a rep company,
Right.
which was very intense. Uni didn't really prepare me for the work, I thought. So it was very tough in sort of the first 6 months. And then I moved a little bit later on down the line to an in-house recruitment role because for me, the thing that I loved, and I love talking to people, the thing that was so great for me was when you hire somebody and they get a promotion or they get an accolade or an award. That was just something that I found so incredible and so enriching because I was sort of like, well, I've been part of that journey with them. And you really get a feel for that person when you're, talking to them on the phone or in person. Um, and so yeah, so then, I kind of thought, well, maybe there's a bit more to people than just the recruitment side of things. And I'd sort of, supported with inductions as well. And then when I came into Mowgli, that's when I was like, right, okay, there is so much more to HR.
Right. So, sorry, could you? I mean, I know you sort of segued into that. How did the Mowgli thing come about? I mean, was it something you just thought, yeah, I need a change, or
Yeah, I mean, I was never unhappy in my role at the time. But I remember, as a recruiter, you're always on job boards. And I remember seeing this opportunity for Mowgli. And so when Nisha opened Bold Street, that's when I moved to Liverpool. So Mowgli's sort of journey I had seen right from the beginning. And I just remember I went to Mowgli. It was one of the first restaurants that I went to when I got to Liverpool. And I just thought, what a fantastic place. It was something that I'd never seen before. Like I was very much used to the curry houses. I went to uni in Birmingham and then we just always went to some amazing curry houses. But it was so different. And I saw this opportunity. I was really inspired by Nisha's story and how she'd got into being a restaurateur. And so I thought, I'm gonna go for it.
wow? I mean, I'm just thinking about myself. Could I have done that? I don't know. Or, when I was at the same point in my career, I don't know. That's wonderful that you did it. You've touched on it. Have there been many mentors in your career so far? Has there been anybody that's really influenced you in your choices and the way you think about the work that you do?
Yes, I think not necessarily mentor, but being able to work for somebody like Nisha is so inspiring.
She's amazing, isn't she? She's
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
absolutely,
And
yeah.
she puts people at the heart of what she does. Everything is about the people. And I think that is so incredibly refreshing to get into a business and it's sort of like, wow, okay, what can we do for our people? I mean, ultimately, our teams in the restaurants, they are the people that, give me a job because they are the ones that are, providing excellent service, amazing food and keep those guests coming back. So Nisha and her, her journey and just her ethos and values, that's really inspiring to me and has definitely, sort of rang true in terms of how I work as a person and, what I hold dear to me and my professional values. Um, from a sort of mentor perspective, so Lucy Worth, our COO, she also she oversees ops and people. And
Right.
she's been so influential in my development. She's spent so much time, supporting me, coaching me, and even in an entry to management when I started to build my team, she was always there, whatever time of day, to help me and to kind of guide me, and almost kind of give me that self and that I need to sort of then think, okay, where is my development now and how do I kind of move forward and create amazing teams and an amazing career for my teams.
And you've taken that forward. You've learned from the people that brought you up, and and it's worked for you. And so
Yeah,
you're implementing it in the work you do now.
yeah, Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Honestly, I can't give more thanks to Nisha and Lucy than I, I already have, really.
I think the Americans call it paying it forward.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's
that.
right.
Yeah, it's good. It's very, very good. Well, so I mean, again, you touched on it, but can you tell me a bit more about Mowgli Street Food? Well, I mean, as an employer, what's the culture actually like? Why should candidates consider coming to work for Mowgli?
So it's a family, and I think that's something that's so important. When you know, if you think of your full-time work, you spend probably 5 days a week with these people, and you've you've got to work with people that care for you, respect you, you know, work with such grace and intelligence. And I think that is what Mowgli is. It's a family, it's a home from home, and it's it's not just serving curry. It's not just cooking and serving curry. It's so much more. We've got the charitable limb of the business and the Mowgli Trust.
Tell me about that.
So every restaurant has a house charity, and our teams are encouraged to fundraise for that house charity through, you know, they might be doing sponsored runs. They might be wearing a certain color one day. So we fundraise through that for house charities. We also work with international partners. So we work with World Vision and Action Against Hunger. So for every full-time member of staff Mowgli employs, we sponsor a child in India through projects with World Vision. Action Against Hunger, again, I think they're quite sort of big in terms of working with hospitality businesses, but they intend to support countries that are experiencing famine. Some of the 50 poorest countries in the world they work with. And I think that's so great because our teams, they have you know, their own causes, and they want to be able to give back to communities. And I think that's so important just as a business as well, to have that integrity. And so that's a really great, you know, great thing that I love about Mowgli. And I just think it's, you know, we are so invested in people. And I think one of the really important things for Nisha as well is to demonstrate that this is a viable career. You can come in and work in a restaurant and, you know, have great successes in your professional development. It shouldn't just be considered as a stopgap.
It's something that needs to be sort of people need to stand up on tables and shout about that, don't they?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that you can have a viable career in hospitality and make it work. Um, since you've started at Mowgli, what kind of changes have you seen implemented? Maybe not only in Mowgli, but industry wide. Have you seen? I mean, how do you feel? You've made the working environment better for your teams, and you know, also by looking at the industry as a whole.
Yeah, I think you know, I don't always like to kind of harp on about COVID. You know, I'm very much sort of future focused, but I think, you know, coming out of the pandemic, and there was a real switch, and even actually just on a broader sense in terms of like CIPD, they sort of revise their aims, and they are sort of championing better working lives. And I think for me as a professional, the pandemic really kind of put the human back into human resources, if that makes sense. So I think that's kind of what I took to then, you know, work in Mowgli. And I think one of the key things is our approach towards people's well-being and mental health. And we've been able to implement some really great practices. We
Can you
do,
talk me through? Can you talk me through some of that?
yeah, absolutely. So we do awareness training, so mental health awareness training for all of our managers. And that's really a chance for them to understand their own mental health and understand how they can protect themselves and make positive changes in their lives to support their well-being, but also how they can then, you know, see if anyone is struggling in their teams and how they can support them. So that's been fantastic. I mean, you know, again, it's a very human approach, but I think just arming our general managers and our head chefs with support and resources, they have the confidence to now be able to speak to any team members who might not be feeling 100%.
Yeah.
So that's a really big thing. I also undertook a mental health first aid course just so I could get more knowledge. And so the people team, we are all qualified, and now we're looking at hopefully rolling that out to the estate to have almost like a body of mental health first aiders that really can support anyone who may be struggling with their mental health.
Right. Okay. I think it's fabulous that so many hospitality businesses are doing exactly that right now, and I think it's brilliant. I think hospitality is really leading the way in this, and it's brilliant that you're doing that. I mean, beyond COVID and these changes that have been brought about, like well-being, is there anything else that you've been working on that's you're quite proud of? Please boast. Please do.
Yeah. So one thing, so Nisha, part of Nisha's brilliance is, so she had this idea around contentment assessments, and that is essentially a one-to-one chat with someone in the people team, which is essentially a conversation around how somebody's feeling. And it can be a conversation that centers around development. It can be a conversation that centers around their well-being, or what impact they feel they could have in their restaurant, if they got any ideas. And part of my role in that was working alongside Nisha and actually thinking, okay, this is the vision. How can I now strategically build this in to Mowgli, and also think about, okay, how am I going to engage the ops managers? How am I going to engage the GMs? So they're not just thinking that someone from the HR team is going and talking to all of their team members. It was all about that buy-in, but also how can we land this so that our teams know we are here, we are listening, we want to be the best. So tell us, is there anything we can do to make your working life better? And I think that's so important. And they really feel that they are being listened to. And, the points that we action from these contentment assessments, they're really grateful that they've had that opportunity.
Contentment assessments.
Yes.
I like that. I like that. And is it working? Is it a work in progress? How does it?
It is working. It's we've kind of sort of launched it early this year, and it is working. So we sort of end up kind of seeing probably like 2 to 3 sites a month. So everyone gets a conversation at least once every 6 months with myself or my colleague Kira. So we like to kind of go out and about, and I think it's great because I think as a people team, you want to have visibility, you want to be seen in restaurants, and not just be in some faraway office on an email. So I think it's really great to be in the sites with the teams and seeing how they're doing and what they're up against, and their daily working lives. I think it's great.
Abby, what do you think the hospitality industry should be doing to promote careers in the industry?
I think it really, I guess, it starts at different levels. So I think first and foremost, you need to just be able to shout about it on your adverts. And I think you really need to be able to also, if you're going to promote the career, offer the career. So have that, development plan in place. If you have an apprenticeship scheme, if you pay into the levy, be able to shout about that, to get young people into hospitality. I think that's really important. I think
how do you think? Sorry, I don't mean to throw you off at these these questions, but how do you think hospitality does engage with another generation, a younger generation? What's the best? What are the best ways of doing that?
I think it's finding out what makes the younger generation tick. And ironically, speaking of tick, I think we've just gone on to TikTok, and I went I went to a school leavers fair quite recently to promote careers. So we went to a school leavers fair, and these were 16 to 18-year-old kids, and And as soon as we said, hey, look, we're on TikTok, their eyes just lit up. And it was amazing. I mean, I don't go on TikTok, so I'm not going to pretend like I'm a pro, but you know, they go onto it and they see in a snapshot what we're like as an employer. And I remember I was doing contentment assessments in Glasgow, and I spoke to a surfer, and you know, I was like, oh, how did you, you know, find out about Mowgli? What made you want to work for us? And she was like, I saw it on TikTok. Like I saw someone, and she was like, I want to work there. So I think that's,
Wow.
I think, you know, you've got to think about what they are looking for. And also I think they are not just looking for something where you can, you know, earn a decent hourly rate and tips. I think it's, you know, thinking about an ethical standing point. They probably want to work with businesses that are giving back to the community. They want to be able to, you know, think about sustainability and make an impact um, on the world. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is so important. Um, Abby, you won the HR and Hospitality Rising Star Award.
I did.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, what does winning that award mean to you?
It's honestly, it's still not really sunk in. It's just incredible to even be shortlisted and to be amongst some really fantastic talent out there and some amazing HR professionals. I was just over the moon. But I think for me, on like a sort of personal note, it's that validation that all of this hard work that I've put in for 4 years, and you know, the kind of blood, sweat, and tears have really has really paid off. And I think, you know, this really sort of now, I don't say elevates, but it gives me that confidence to keep pushing forward and to keep following my dreams and where I want to be.
Yeah, I understand that completely. It's a validation, isn't it? It really is, and it's brilliant, and it's so well deserved. It really is. So, what are your plans for the future?
Um, in a professional sense,
Yeah.
I
No, I'm not asking you what you're having for lunch, but you know, what.
I could talk about that for ages. But no, for me, it's again just stretching myself and just, you know, learning as much as I can and networking and looking at people in the industry and think, right, you know, that's where I want to be. I want to go and find out what they're doing, or just trying to absorb as much as I can. And I think, you know, just remaining curious and keeping on track with my own like sort of professional development outside of work. So, you know, sort of doing a lot of reading or podcasts and just seeing bigger trends outside of hospitality as well. But that's really the goal. This, you know, this isn't a I'm gonna stop here and coast for a bit. I just, you know, I really want to push myself even further. So yeah.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And again, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thanks so much for joining me today, Abby. It's been a really good conversation with you. It really has. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Recruiting in Hospitality. If you like what we do, please do subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on our socials. We're on Twitter at caterer.com, caterer, DOTCOM. Likewise on Instagram. Uh, Follow us on LinkedIn. Find us on Facebook. So yeah, follow us, subscribe, and let us know what you think about the program. Be sure to join us next time, and thank you again to Abby. You're a wonderful guest, Abby. You really were. So thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks, Ed.
Join us again on Recruiting in Hospitality. I've been Lance Narayan. Take care. Bye bye.